Tea time. Welcome everybody, Souldin of the Grin Brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time, and for the third and final part of E3 2018 time. Yes, I know, it's been a little bit later than expected, but certain things proved inconvenient. Rafi had his room redecorated, so he had to move downstairs to the game room, which made recording very awkward for the tea times. I mean, there's always the problem risk I'm going to end up waking him up as it is with these tea times because the game room's directly below his room. But I would definitely be waking him up in the morning if I was recording in the exact same room with him. And Rafi is not a morning person. In any case, this third and final part of E3 2018 time will just be me discussing about some of the games shown off at E3. Because of course when doing the E3 times before, a part of it was also devoted to each of the presentations and only like 5 minutes for each presentation. There's also as I said, the presentation factor to their presentations. But this will be focused on just some of the games which interest me. Some of them I already plan on purchasing, and some of them I'm debating on purchasing. Well, most of them I'm debating on purchasing. And so it's just and that's for both this year and next year in terms of releases. So it's just a bunch of the games which interest me. I also want to give a shout out to the fact that the Grin Brothers channel now has its own banner as drawn by Aero Hale. I'm probably giving a shout out already in the main Grin Brothers videos, I think in our Mega Man 2 playthrough, but I'm giving another shout out because I'll be using it in place of the two previous Namco artworks that I used for E3 2018 times part 1 and 2. So just to give it a bit more highlight that, hey, we've got an amazing a banner made by Aero Hale and I wanted to show it off. So in any case, let's get on to the games of E3 2018 time part 3. Now the first 3 to 4 games I want to talk about are games that I already knew I wanted before this E3 and I plan on purchasing this year, or getting to play in some fashion. The first of these is Octopath Traveler, which got a lot more showcasing at E3 than I really expected it to have, given it's coming out so soon. But I'm glad to see it get such attention, even if there wasn't really anything new to be discussed about it, which I'm kind of glad for on that aspect as well, because it really revealed enough information already. It's like we already have all the information we needed. Any more would just be spoiling things. But no, Octopath Traveler got a lot shown off without revealing anything new per se. The only new thing was the demo, another demo, but it's one of those prologue demo things, so where you basically get to play the game before you actually purchase the game, which I don't plan on doing. I want to experience it in its whole. It's too much of a tease if I play the prologue now and have to wait until playing the main game. But yeah, still looking forward to Octopath Traveler, and that's coming out July 13th. Two of the other games which I'm looking forward to, which I also got some more attention at E3, but Code Vein is one of them, but sadly it didn't get shown off in any of the presentations. I don't remember seeing it pop up in Microsoft or Sony's, and Microsoft previously have shown it off quite a bit. But Code Vein, it's a game I'm interested in. That's releasing the Xbox One. That's just got more stuff shown of it, mainly in terms of the English dub it's got. A lot of the information that they talked about had already been revealed before. Though something I think was new to the E3 sort of information they talked about was the hot springs. Because of course, whilst Code Vein is a Dark Souls inspired game, because it's made by a Japanese developer with a Japanese style to it rather than the From Software's more Western style. You never think From Software would be a Japanese developer, but with Code Vein on the other hand, it's like, you know what, we need to make this more Japanese. Hot springs it is. Always got to add the hot springs. Speaking of hot springs, but that's only kind of tangentially related to it, SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy is the other game I'm interested in, which is I plan to purchase. Both it and Code Vein are September releases, actually. Luckily, they're on the other opposite ends of September, so I'll have time to play one before I get to the other. But SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy sadly didn't get a huge amount of showcasing in Nintendo Direct, but nothing aside from Smash Bros. Got a huge amount of showcasing in Nintendo Direct, so it got a little bit shown off. It got a new character revealed shortly after E3, and it's still looking very vibrant, very pretty, and very fun. So yeah, looking forward to SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. So Octopath Traveler, Code Vein, SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy are 3 of the games I plan on actually purchasing of my 12 games purchasing per year strategy. But there's another game which I would normally consider purchasing, but I'm convenient in having an older brother who loves the IP the game is based off of, and so I was planning to purchasing anyway. So I'm just going to go over to his house and play it at his house if need be, or borrow it. And that's Spider-Man. I loved Spider-Man 2. Heck, I loved Spider-Man on the GameCube. Spider-Man on the Mega Drive, Spider-Man vs. Kingpin, I believe it was called in several territories, was also tons of fun, as well as the PlayStation Spider-Man game. I really like quite a few of the Spider-Man games. And it looks amazing. It looked amazing at previous E3s and presentations we've had, and it looks even more amazing now. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the new Spider-Man game. Rafi's the one who owns the PS4, so I'm not usually very committed to buying PS4 games, but in this case, well, Silverwing is going to be purchasing it, both for himself and his nephew loves Spider-Man as well, so... I'm sorry, his son, my nephew, loves Spider-Man as well. So, I'm just going to go over to their house and play it instead. Saves me having to spend any money at all. So, yeah, Spider-Man would have been a game I would have put in my top 12 games I plan on purchasing, but hey, it's not. I had a couple of games I was really considering to put in my games of purchasing. However, Rafi has said he plans on purchasing both of these following games. The first one, this is kind of a risky one, and it's another one from Namco Bandai. Despite not having an E3 presentation, Namco tends to actually reveal quite a few games and have a lot to show. It's kind of weird that. Kind of think they'd have their own E3 presentation at this point, at least more so than Bethesda. But Soul Calibur 6. Now I know what you're thinking, anyone who's seen the Soul Calibur 5 playthrough, that's a pretty big risk, wanting to go back to Soul Calibur again. Did you not suffer enough? It's like, yeah, but Soul Calibur 6 is doing everything right. The story is covering the first Soul Edge Soul Calibur game, all the way up to Soul Calibur 2, sort of a coverage period. It's got all the old characters again. It looks amazing. The fighting looks a lot better without that stupid guard impact using Mia. I mean, it's still got a Mia system, which is annoying. There are certain games which don't need Mita. Soul Calibur didn't need special moves, but otherwise, it looks amazing. A lot of my favourite characters are back. Kilik and Zhonghua are both back, and whilst I've yet to see Yilla's man, it's looking really good and getting really hyped up for Soul Calibur 6. And it's like, I may have been bitten, as it were, by Soul Calibur 5, and, but I guess I haven't learned my lesson, because Soul Calibur 6 is just ringing every right bell. It's really enticing me. But Rafi has already said he probably most likely will be getting that game anyway, so I don't need to worry about purchasing it. Likewise, another game I considered, though not as much as Soul Calibur 6, is My Hero Wants Justice, which is really weird because I'm so used to calling it Boku no Hero. It's a very easy to pronounce name, which is, sometimes not all that common with the Japanese titles, but Boku no Hero is very easy. But yeah, it's My Hero Wants Justice is a fighting game, 3D arena fighting game based off Boku no Hero Academia. A really good manga and anime series. It's had some flaws that I've been noticing more frequently lately. It is kind of main character focused, as in heavily so. However, yeah, My Heroes Wants Justice is a 3D arena fighting game, covering up from the Stain arc to the All For One arc. I believe it's All For One. And yeah, it generally looks pretty fun. Very Naruto Ninja Storm-esque, and I really did enjoy the Storm games. And good set of characters, although it's missing a few key ones, like no playable nerve. It's like, that questions your choices for the roster there. But yeah, it was interesting me, and excited to actually get a video game based off Boku no Hero. But Rafi has already said he's considering purchasing that anyway. So again, it's a case of, okay, fair enough. That was the next most likely thing. Another game. And this was a surprise announcement at the Nintendo Direct, the Nintendo E3 Direct. Hollow Knight. That was a game I'd been looking forward to a very long time. When everyone was excited by say Shovel Knight and such, Hollow Knight was the game which grabbed my interest. It had a beautiful art style to it, all hand drawn. Not sort of just the 2D pixel NES styled sprites, but proper hand drawn sort of looking graphics, and looks fluid, looks fun. And as I said, great sort of style and atmosphere to it. However, it kind of just disappeared. It apparently came out on other systems, but I never really saw much, talk of it, which is very strange. It was, it disappeared, no one talked about it, and then it released very quietly. So it's really interesting to see it's coming. It's come out on the Nintendo Switch and on the very day of the E3. That was really cool. However, I'm not considering purchasing that game because I've heard mentioned that they are considering a physical release. And if I can get a game physically, then heck of it. I'm more than happy to wait a year, 2, maybe even 3 if need be. So if there's a chance of a Hollow Knight physical release, well, so long as they've got that, card on the table, I'm not going to bother with a digital download. I hate digital downloads and do it as a last resort. I've had amazing games I loved which were digital downloads, but if I could get them physically, even if for an extra 10 or 20 quid, I would go for that extra price. So, other games I've been considering. Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. That is definitely one. I would probably get on the Xbox One. I feel that's true to Tales of Vesperia, given it was a 360 exclusive release. I believe it got ported to PS3 later on, but it was 360 for what we know of it around the world. So I kind of feel I'd get it for Xbox One in the case. I was interested in it. The main character had a nice little. The main character has a really nice design of the Tales of protagonists. So that's what interests me, and I've enjoyed the previous Tales of the games. Tales of Symphonia, and I think it was Tales of Eternia? I can't remember. It was one that came out early on the PSP. I think it was one of the SNES games remade. But really enjoyed that one as well. I'll have it pop up on screen if it was the right. Well, if it was the wrong one, I'll have the correct Tales of game pop up. But Tales of Symphonia and I think Tales of Eternia were the ones I really enjoyed. And I'm definitely considering Tales of Vesperia. In fact, it's currently the most likely other game I may purchase or even just put on my Christmas list at this point. Because there's things that, kind of put me off some of these other games I've got here. We Happy Few, for instance, whilst I really like the style and such, and the story and really intrigues me, from what I've heard gameplay-wise, I don't think there'll be much to really grab my attention. We Happy Few is like this dystopian world where people try to make themselves happy using happy pills. And the gameplay mechanic seems more like a stealth escape sort of mechanic. It's apparently developed by people who used to work on the BioShock games. So it's like stuff that, whilst the saying and such is interesting, it's like, gameplay-wise, nothing is really my sort of game. It's not really got much appeal to me there. But hey, I like how it looks, so it's at least grabbed my attention. But I think it's probably the game I'd prefer to just watch someone else go through rather than play through myself. Other games worth considering: Team Sonic Racing. That's a new racing game by Sumo Digital. Oh, and Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed is my favourite racing game of all time. So yeah, there's a lot of reason to consider it. It just feels like Team Sonic Racing is a step back from Sega All Stars Racing, and that's kind of not the direction you want to have a series go. Stepping backwards. There's also the character choice also seems very limited. It looks like they'll only have 5 sets of 3, so not a huge roster either. And the choices, there's 1, not too many surprising, and 2 very strange choices, like replacing Cream with just 4 chows in a car because Cream can't drive because she's 6, yet Tails is 8. So, yeah, very questionable there. So, I'm not... despite how much I loved Sumo Digital's racing games of Sonic All-Stars Racing, I'm not that excited for Team Sonic Racing. As Rafi has pointed out, the best part about it, and the reason he's sort of considered it before, is that Crush 40 is back. It's kind of sad if the reason you end up buying the game is solely the music, though Crush 40 are gosh darn good. So, another game I've still got on the consideration table, but is super low down, is the Pokemon Let's Go games. Specifically Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, because Rafi plans on purchasing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. My problem with Pokemon Sun and Moon is that aside from difficulty spikes, it was way too easy. And Pokemon Let's Go looks like I would literally fall asleep whilst playing it. Also, it means going through Kanto again, and at that, going through Kanto with a Golbat that can't evolve into a Crobat. And oh gosh, I am not willing to put up with that. I also started playing a Pokemon Leaf Green Nuzlocke. Haven't played it in a while, but I've got a few updates I haven't bothered posting for quite a while as well. But gosh darn, Pokemon Let's Go just seems like it'd be the most frustrating thing. Pokemon was already a very easy game to begin with. It was already the gateway RPG. So Pokemon Let's Go just kind of feels like they're dumbing down the game rather than making it more accessible. It was already the most accessible RPG you could find. And if I could get to Koga when I was 6 on Pokemon Red, I am pretty sure most people can actually grasp Pokemon Let's Go and play fairly well. But Unlikely, but maybe it might be worth doing a recorded playthrough of Pokemon Let's Go. Just though I kind of feel Nintendo and Game Freak would be very quick to hammer sort of bans on anyone uploading Let's Play footage, so debatable. Tell me what you think about, whether I should consider Pokemon Let's Go for a Grin Brothers Let's Play or something. It might be worth the thought, in which case I would then get Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and do it on the channel with Rafi, but hey ho. But yeah, those are the games that I've sort of covered for 2018 releases. And this is probably where I want to end it, because again, I'll try to keep these 15 minutes. So I'll quickly go over the 2019 releases and probably talk them further in later points. There are there are 2 games which I definitely want for next year, and 2 games I'm considering. 2 games I definitely want. Well, my favourite announcement at E3 was Dead or Alive 6, because I love the Dead or Alive games, so Dead or Alive 6 coming out, yes, that is amazing. There are things that incredibly annoy me about, though, because they've introduced a meter. Dead or Alive did not need a meter, it was perfect without a meter. Dead or Alive 5 Last Round has a perfect fighting game system, I cannot stress this enough. It flows well, it's accessible, there are combos to it, there are really cool cinematic attacks as well, which barely interrupt the flow of combat. And whilst Dead or Alive 6 doesn't look like it's interrupting it too much, and they've got a counter mechanic specifically for countering that super, and the supers aren't, fire and energy blast. It's a super cool combo sort of thing, or a super counter, as it were. It's still very, very frustrating to see that they've also given in and gone with the super meter. It's like, not every fighting game needs a super meter. But it does look gorgeous, and it does look like it flows and fights as well as Dead or Alive always has, so there we go. It doesn't have a Switch release, sadly, which, again, the reason I got a Switch, or rather, the main thing I was hyped for in terms of the Switch having a handheld component to it, was being able to practice fighting games on the go. But you know what, I'm more than happy getting for my Xbox One. And the other big game which I'm looking forward to for 2019, well, I thought this game was coming out for this year, but it's not, so hey, it's a 2019 one. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a definite must-have. Ori and the Blind Forest was one of the best games I've played on the Xbox One, one of the best games of last generation, and still my favourite playthrough we've done on the Grin Brothers channel. I absolutely love that game. And it looks gorgeous. It looks like it's going to be tugging at your heartstrings constantly, once again. And so I'm really, really, really hyped for Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and hey, it's a 2019 game, but hey, it's going to be a good start to 2019, depending on when it comes out. Dead or Alive 6 and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. 2019 definitely has games I'm going to be excited for. Another game I'm considering, it's one I would have definitely considered getting it this year, if it was actually coming out on Switch this year. But Dragon Quest XI is a big-scale turn-based RPG, so that naturally has my interest, because a lot of the turn-based RPGs that are coming out as of late are much smaller scale, like they've got either retro graphics or they're smaller, shorter games, such. So it's interesting, and whilst I do prefer short RPGs, short games in general, so you could actually get them, complete them anytime, it's interesting to see a big-scale RPG once again, and it'll be nice to have that on the Switch, because otherwise it's a PS4. There's no Xbox One version, so it's a priority thing. It's Switch or Xbox One, and PS4 is very low down on the priority thing. If it's on PS4, I consider, should I get it, should I not? I mean, when Raph eventually leaves the house, he takes the PS4 and all the games with him, so unless it's exclusive, it's really not worth considering. But a Switch release is eventually coming from that, and so I'm really interested in Dragon Quest XI. I feel it'll depend on what other games are announced for 2019, but I have a strong feeling that I will probably get it, and I assume that it is actually going to have its Switch release finally in 2019, because they've said that it probably won't take that long to get the thing ported, and they're adding more team members in order to port their games quicker. So yeah, that's some of the games that interest me at E3 2018. Some of the ones which probably didn't get the attention they spotlight within their various presentations and such. So I felt it was worth mentioning them. And feel free to tell me about any games at E3 2018 that truly interested you. Any games that you feel didn't get the spotlight that they could have done. Maybe they just weren't focused on the presentation. They got announced just before or just after. To avoid being overshadowed by all the other announcements. And in general, tell me what you think about E3 2018. Next year, I'll try to be quick with these E3 videos releasing, but hey, I hope next year Rafi shouldn't be, having his room redecorated. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and cheerio!